Welcome, Fright Night Vault listeners. There are objects that do not belong to the living, items that carry more than dust and time. Sometimes they're hidden in museums. Other times they're sold for $5 at the end of a driveway. It was a quiet Saturday morning in the neighborhood of Marrowbend, an aging cul-de-sac with leaning fences and too many dead leaves. The air still held that brittle weight of early autumn, the kind that whispered change without showing its teeth. Catherine Bloom was walking home from the park with coffee in hand and earbuds tucked into her sweater when she saw it, an unmarked yard sale 3 blocks from her house. Just a folding table and a scattering of items on a threadbare rug. No signs, no people. At first, she thought it was abandoned. No one behind the table, no customers, not even a chair in sight. Just objects, faded books, glass bottles, a porcelain doll with eyes that didn't sit quite right. And then, she saw it. A jewelry chest. It sat at the very edge of the rug, almost like it had been placed away from everything else on purpose. It was strange, gorgeous even. Not a trinket box. This was something old, dark walnut wood, curved and carved with roses and twisting leaves. Ornate clawed feet, brass hinges, a velvet-lined interior with pull-out drawers, the kind of thing you'd see behind glass in an antique store, not sunning on some cracked driveway. She lifted the lid. It made no sound. Empty. But something in her, something quiet and instinctual, whispered, "Take it." There was no price tag. She looked around again, uneasy. Still no one. No movement in the windows, no cars in the drive. She called out, "Hello?" Nothing. The silence swallowed her voice. She reached into her purse, left a 20 on the rug, and carried the chest home. Catherine's house was small and neat, an old craftsman tucked between 2 overgrown lots. Her husband had passed the year before. Since then, the house had felt like too much space, and her days had blurred into long hours of books, wine, and solitude. She spent most of her time in the back sunroom where the light pooled golden across the floors. She placed the chest on the end table beside her reading chair and admired it. The wood was smooth, cool, almost too cold. Her cat, Minx, refused to go near it, arched her back and hissed when Catherine tried to coax her close. She laughed it off. That first night, she slept fine. The second night, she woke at 3:04 in the morning. She hadn't set an alarm, no noise had startled her, no bad dreams. She was just awake. The jewelry chest sat on her dresser now, closed, still and silent. She rolled over, dismissed it, and went back to sleep. By the third night, Catherine noticed the first change. The top drawer of the chest was open. Just a crack. She was sure she had closed it. She reached out and shut it again, more firmly this time. That night, she was awoken again, 3:01 in the morning, not by sound, by something else. A shift, a pressure in the air. The feeling you get when someone walks into the room behind you. She sat up in bed. The chest was open, not just the top drawer, all of them. And there was something inside now. A single earring, silver, shaped like a tear. Catherine stared at it for a long time before she touched it. It was ice cold. She told herself it had been there all along. The next morning, the earring was gone. By the end of the week, Catherine had started locking her bedroom door at night. She didn't know why. She didn't tell anyone, not that there was anyone to tell. But the air in the house had changed. She'd started hearing things, not voices, movements, soft, deliberate shifts, a drawer sliding open, a creak on the hallway floorboards. Her cat stopped coming into the bedroom altogether, sat at the door and cried from the hallway each night. And every night, she woke at exactly 3:03 in the morning. The next item appeared on the 6th night, a hairpin, thin, silver, barbed with tiny rubies. It wasn't there when she went to bed. It was there when she woke, sitting neatly inside the top drawer. Catherine picked it up, hesitating, and pricked her finger on the tip. The wound bled more than it should have. She dropped the pin and slammed the chest closed. By now, she'd stopped sleeping, stopped eating. She couldn't keep the chest shut. Each time she tried, it crept open again by morning. The items inside were piling up. Rings, brooches, lockets, all silver, all cold, all placed there when the clock struck 3. She tried throwing it away. At 2:58, she drove out to the edge of town and left the chest in a dumpster behind a boarded-up grocery store. She returned home, poured a drink, and sat in the living room shaking. No noises, no movement. She tried to sleep on the couch. She was awoken at 3:07 in the morning by the sound of a drawer sliding open upstairs. The chest was back on her dresser. The next morning, Catherine didn't get out of bed. She simply stared at the chest. The room felt colder now. It had been gradually draining of warmth for days, but now the air had teeth. Her breath fogged in front of her face. She wore 2 sweaters, but it did nothing. The chest sat quietly, closed, waiting. She didn't touch it, didn't speak, didn't cry. At 3:03 the next morning, the bottom drawer opened on its own. Inside was a photograph, faded, browned at the edges. It showed a woman, not Catherine, not anyone she recognized. The woman was standing in front of the very same jewelry chest, same carvings, same brass, but her eyes, they were gone. Burned out of the photo with something black and uneven, not scratched, charred. Catherine flipped the photo over. One word had been scrawled in red ink: return. She tried again. This time she drove out to the lake, weighed the chest down with bricks, hurled it from the dock into the icy water, watched it vanish beneath the ripples. She felt relief, hollow, fleeting, but real. Until 3:01 a.m. the next morning, she heard the sound of water dripping from the dresser. The chest sat there, soaked and steaming. The carpet beneath it blackened with lake mud. The bottom drawer slid open again, slow and deliberate. Another photo. This time it was Catherine. The picture had been taken in her bedroom. The lighting, the angle. Someone had stood in the corner of her room and taken it while she slept. This time no eyes had been burned out, but her mouth was stitched shut. She tried to burn it next. Drove to a clearing in the woods, covered the chest in lighter fluid, lit the match with shaking hands. The flames rose high, orange, furious, engulfing. She didn't look away, stood until the fire had eaten it down to black ash. She left the remains behind and walked back to her car. She didn't speak for the rest of the day, didn't eat, didn't turn on a single light in the house, just sat in the dark, rocking slowly in her chair with the cat curled in her lap. Minx purred like a motor, but her eyes never left the hallway. That night, she told herself, "It's gone." But she didn't sleep. At 3:02 in the morning, she heard breathing, not her own, slow, wet, close. She opened her eyes. The chest was at the foot of her bed. It wasn't scorched. It wasn't wet. It was pristine, shined, polished, as if it had never been touched. The drawers began to open, one by one. This time, the contents were not jewelry. The first drawer held a lock of hair, the second, a child's tooth, the third, a finger bone still wrapped in a wedding band. Catherine screamed, and the top of the chest creaked open. She didn't wait to see what was inside. She fled the room, ran to the kitchen, threw open drawers, looking for, what? A knife? A hammer? And that's when the lights went out. The hallway lit up behind her in a dull amber glow, like candlelight, but flickering wrong. as if something alive was casting the flame. She turned. At the end of the hallway, something stood. Not a person, tall, thin, wearing a veil made of strands of blackened lace and twisted metal. It didn't move, it didn't breathe. But behind the veil, Catherine could see the same jewelry chest, embedded in its chest like a wound. One of the drawers opened, and her name spilled out of it. Not written, spoken. The sound crawled across the walls, whispered in her own voice, dragging syllables like nails through wet wood. Catherine. She ran. She locked herself in the bathroom, sobbing. The cat had vanished. The house felt stretched, like a dream warping at the edges. The clocks had all stopped. Everyone stuck at 3:03. She didn't sleep. She didn't move. She just sat on the cold tile floor until the sun broke through the blinds and reminded her that the world still existed. She decided then, this ends tonight. That day, Catherine went to the library. She searched the archives, the property records, the newspaper obituaries, anything. And she found it. The house she'd found the chest in wasn't on record. No address matched. No house existed on that block, at least, not anymore. There had been a fire. 12 years ago, a widow named Isadora Harrow lived there, obsessed with heirlooms, collected jewelry from her mother, her grandmother, her daughters. The fire was ruled accidental, no survivors. The bodies were found curled around a scorched jewelry chest. It was described as ornate, rose-carved and scorched black from the inside. No one claimed it. The chest was never seen again. Until now. That night, Catherine returned home and opened every drawer herself. Nothing inside. She took out a notebook and began writing, not to explain what happened, but to warn whoever came next. She placed the notebook inside the chest. Then she carried it to the basement and locked the door behind her. Catherine did not come back up from the basement. Not that night, not ever. 3 days passed. The mail piled up. Minks yowled behind the windowsill. The neighbors talked. By the 4th day, a wellness check was requested. Police broke the back door open. They found the house cold, silent. Nothing disturbed. All the lights off. Every clock frozen at 3:03 in the morning. Catherine's bedroom was clean. Bed made, curtains drawn. The only thing out of place was the jewelry chest. It sat on the kitchen table, closed, polished, and empty. They found her in the basement. At least, they found what was left. A circle of melted candles surrounded her body. A deep gouge in the concrete floor. No signs of trauma. No signs of struggle. Her face was frozen in a silent scream, and her hands had been carefully folded over a notebook. The pages were soaked in ink and water damage, but legible. She'd written the same phrase over and over for 17 pages. Don't open it after 3. The police took the notebook, bagged the chest, filed the report. But none of that matters, because you're hearing this now, aren't you? And that chest? It isn't gone. You'll see it again. Maybe at a yard sale. Maybe in an antique shop. Maybe already in your home, waiting for the right hour to open. And when it does, don't look inside, because once it opens, it remembers you. If you made it this far, you're one of us. Subscribe so you don't miss what crawls out next. And if you have a horror story of your own, feel free to drop it in the comments. You never know, the next story could be yours. See you on the next one.